In last episode I started fiberglassing the root portion of the main wing. This part stays permanently joined to the fuselage and still needs some more work. So let's start. First I trim the overhanging cloth. Then I get to sanding. For now I use the orbital sander to speed up the process. I use 40 or 60 grit paper for the rough cleanup. Without pressing down too much, I clean up all the high spots and briefly scratch the surface. Then I switch to 100 grit and remove all the shiny surface. The final shaping and sanding will be done by hand, but that's later. Make sure to wear a mask when sanding fiberglass, this stuff is very itchy and nasty. Okay, enough removing material. We are now back to adding stuff. I mark the center of the tube on the balsa rib and clear the way for the wires. Then I protect the wires from epoxy by using duct tape. I cut the cloth slightly bigger than the rib. I precisely mix epoxy and add cotton fiber to get the structural glue. I mix it in small batches since epoxy is an exothermic reaction that generates heat. Big batch on a warm day can go super hot and may even catch fire. There are hardeners that are slower, but at this moment I only have the fast one. I apply the glue to the styrofoam and to the back of the rib. The rib isn't mandatory here, but I want nice and clean side. If you are wondering why the carbon fiber tube doesn't run to the end of the wing, it's because I decided to stretch the wingspan a bit and keep the top of the fuselage opened. This way will be much easier to access the electronics and run the wiring. I tack the rib in place with instant glue. Then I mix some clean epoxy and apply the fiberglass. I could have thickened the epoxy a little on the first layer so it doesn't soak that much into the balsa wood. But it's too late now. Extra weight is the penalty. Next I apply 3-inch bidirectional tape onto the leading edges. This tape joins the top and bottom skin and creates nice and strong leading edge. The extra thickness will be useful when sanding the final shape into the edge. The epoxy doesn't soak into cured glass underneath, so I don't have to use that much glue. Remember that too much epoxy doesn't make it stronger. There is a sweet spot for maximum performance. I have some leftover glue and I can't let it go to waste. This stuff is pretty expensive, so I try to have small side jobs during my glue sessions. Right now I'm building a radius where the main landing gear meets the fuselage. The gear wasn't stiff enough with bolts only, so I'm transferring the moment to the skin of the fuselage. I applied 3 layers of fiberglass and each layer is bigger than the previous one. Initially I wanted to be able to remove the gear at any time, but from now on the gear stays with the fuselage for good. If I really need to remove it, I'll have to make some serious cuts. Done and ready to cure. Next day I clean everything up. In some places I like to use a file to remove all the high spots. The epoxy isn't fully cured yet and it's a little easier to shave and cut. Now it's time to improvise some pockets for the wires. I use a router for that purpose. Not the cleanest, but I have to balance my time. I don't want this build to take forever, so I'm ready to compromise some details. Next time I will definitely have a tunnel dedicated for wires. The way I run them this time isn't the best, but the lesson learned. Now I have to do my best to protect the wires from being chafed by the carbon tube. I scoop out some grooves to make a path for the cable. After the way for the carbon fiber tube is cleared, I decide to deepen the pocket some more and proceed to the glue and fiberglass part. I tack the wires in place with instant glue. Then I mix some structural glue and keep it on the wet side so I can sink the cloth in it. I hope the wires will never get damaged, and this layer of glue will effectively protect them. In the next part of the video, I start working on the touchable part of the wing. It will be my first time ever working with carbon fiber. Let's start. I start with the flap. Carbon fiber feels much stiffer than fiberglass, and the strands are much easier to distort. I apply clean epoxy to the cloth and epoxy mixed with glass bubbles to the foam. I stay away from the leading edge. I don't think I would be able to wrap it around with carbon fiber without vacuum bagging it. I don't have a setup for vacuum bagging, and I will go around the radius with fiberglass instead. Now some more slurry on the opposite side, then carbon fiber just to the leading edge again. I use epoxy mixed with cotton fiber on the trailing edge so it's nice and hard. Next, I wrap the fiberglass tape around to join the two sides. Finally, I wrap everything with plastic and work the final shape. I squeeze some epoxy out, but not too much. Next day I check the results. I work the ailerons and the other flap the same way. With a plane of this size, the ailerons will probably need some balancing to avoid destructive flutter. I cut along the trailing edge with grinder. I use strip of plywood as a guide. I'm happy with the outcome and can't wait to finish the rest of the wing. That's all for today, and more coming soon.